One is host a local meetup. If you have time to attend a local meetup, you have time to host a local meetup. And the rewards for hosting a local meetup are exponentially better, exponentially greater than actually attending. Even if you're a passive investor, I'm going to suggest, even if you're a passive investor and you attend meetups, if you were to host one and maybe host one with other passive investors, or maybe host one where you bring in deal sponsors to talk about the deals in their business, that will elevate you to a different level of education and connection with others at minimum, and perhaps it will open up a new revenue stream if you're looking for a new revenue stream, because you could pull maybe a group of you together, and then maybe you get some sort of fee on top of that for leading the charge with an LLC that you'll create. I don't know, but if you have time, but it's a no-brainer if you're an active real estate investor. Mm-hmm. It's a no-brainer. If you're attending a meetup, okay, great, but you need to be hosting a meetup. And if everyone took this advice, then I probably wouldn't have this advice, because then there'd be a million meetups and no attendees. But not everyone will take this advice. So I'm giving the advice, and I'm living and breathing it. The month after I arrived in Cincinnati to live here, I created a meetup to make friends. That was the main reason why, to make friends, and it has resulted in investor relationships that I wouldn't have if I didn't host the meetup. And now Cincinnati represents 13% of all investor dollars in the deals. Now, one disclaimer, I had to remove my largest investor from this analysis because it would have greatly skewed everything. Largest investors invested about $20 million in our deals. So I had to remove that. And he, by the way, was from Los Angeles and has moved to a different city. So I just wanted to give that disclaimer.
Just for the meetup, you were saying how anyone has time to host a meetup. How much time would you say per month you spend on the meetup besides the actual 3-hour event?
If I didn't have, so I don't spend any time on it now, but if I didn't have team members, basically when I started it, when I didn't have team members doing it, I would say 1 hour a month.
That's what I thought, yeah.
Yeah, 1 hour a month. You post it on meetup.com, on Eventbrite, and on Bigger Pockets. That's about 45 minutes if you're slow like me when you get started. And then you got about 15 minutes of answering questions or whatever.
Okay.
You know? Yeah, it's super easy.
1 hour of your time outside the actual meetup to
and
host a meetup.
I'm going to add 1 more hour. And the only reason I'm going to add 1 more hour is because ideally you bring in a speaker.
Okay.
And by doing that, there'll be some coordinating for the speaker to talk. In a no-pitch environment, make sure that they are aware that they may not pitch anything. It is purely education, no sales. Okay. Number 2 is host a board game and drinks night at your house. Colleen and I are doing that tomorrow, Friday. So I guess if you're listening to the podcast today, then we're hosting it tonight. And you were supposed to come. You just told me you and Marcella are not coming. Yeah, so Theo and Marcella were going to come, but I do this because I love it. I love board games. I love board games. I love having people over, and I love getting together. In addition to those, the having fun, we're also going to build and strengthen relationships with some investors of mine too, who are local and who are attending. And it's investors and their significant other. They're coming over. Doing stuff like that is something you can only do if you're local. And by doing that, and we're not playing cash flow quadrant or anything like that, although I wouldn't be opposed to it. We're playing Balderdash and triopoly, which probably only Michigan and Ohio people would know about. But other games like that, and we're just having fun. Having those types of experiences and those types of events at your house brings a different level of relationship with your investors. And it's important to come at it from an authentic standpoint. I just enjoy board games. I enjoy hanging out. But a byproduct of that is our relationship is strengthened. And it is even better if you do it with your significant other and their significant other, because it helps everyone get to know each other's families a lot more. And then that takes the level of trust and shoots it through the roof, because you all know each other incredibly well. And that's what you can get when you're having conversations with your local investors versus investors who live across the country.
There's a little bonus tip that's coming to mind now. I know one of your clients, he was able to leverage his significant other's network to raise money. So that's something else too to keep in mind. Just because you yourself may not think you have people in your network that could invest in deals, your significant other or some other family member might have a job or have some sort of connections. They know someone who knows people that would invest in your deals. That's just like a little bonus tip that came to mind from the board night and significant other.
Let's see, number 3, consistent online presence that has an interview component to it. Well, that's my podcast. And if you don't have a podcast, then my recommendation is to have something that is available for people to access at any point in time, and it positions you as a thought leader. And 2 key parts to what this says, which is consistent online presence that has an interview component. The 2 key parts: consistent and interview component. Consistent, they want to see that you follow through with things over a long period of time, and that says something about who you are as a person. You can consistently do something over a long period of time. You stick to stuff, you commit to things, and you follow through. 2 is the interview-based format. When you interview people, you then have them promote it to their network. And when you interview local people, they promote it to their network, which is likely people within the local area. And then you can meet those people who they promote it to, and they reach out to you eventually. You can have dinner with them and build the same level of relationship if you have rapport and if you two really connect.
And there's another thought about the having your online presence. You interviewed, I can't remember what her name was off the top of my head, but we'll have a blog post coming out about it today, or we're listening to this on yesterday, and she was mentioning how when you're building a brand and you're doing it through, say you have a podcast, for example, you want to make sure that you have not only have your website aligned with the podcast, but also social media, and have all 3 of those aligned, because if they listen to the podcast and they're going to search, he's got a podcast, he seems credible, let's look up and see if he's got a website. And they go, okay, well, he's got a website. Now, okay, is he showing up in person somewhere? Oh, he does Facebook Live, so now I see an actual person. And then you see, now he's on social media also sharing advice, or they're talking about his personal life, so you know that they're an actual person. And just kind of talking about aligning all those things to have that highest level of trust and credibility with your audience.
Yeah,
I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, and it's important to be consistent with it's important to know who you are so that you can be consistent with what your presence looks like. When I got started, when I got started as an entrepreneur, after I left advertising, I went to someone's just apartment studio thing, and I had a suit and tie, and it was glamour shot style picture, and I posted it, I tweeted it. I hate Twitter. No, I don't tweet at all anymore. I think there's automatic sharing through Twitter for the podcast. Besides that, it's just too much noise for me. Anyway, I tweeted out at the time when I was actively on Twitter, and a former colleague of mine replied back or tweeted back, and he's like, who is this guy in this suit? Because it wasn't congruent with who I was. I was trying to be someone who I wasn't. I'm just not. That's why right now I have a athletic shirt on, and I look like I'm about to go for a run, which I might after this. And it's important to be consistent with who you are. Whoever you are, be consistent with it. Because if you have a suit and tie on your website, you're wearing a suit and tie on your website, but then you're in jeans and a t-shirt in your YouTube videos, and it just looks different, then people can be confused about what you represent and who you are.
Exactly. Yeah, the confusion factor.
Cool. And then lastly, the fourth tip is volunteer, then become a board member for that nonprofit. I've talked about this a couple times. When I was in advertising, I joined the Texas Tech Alumni Advisory Board for the College of Media and Communication. I did it because I wanted to give back. I wanted to help college students. I got a lot out of my experience there at Texas Tech, and I wanted to be involved. And I have been to Lubbock every year, I believe, since graduation, or at least since I've been on the board, which I graduated in 2005. It's 2017. I probably was on the board. I've probably been on the board for about 10 years. I'm pretty sure I've been back every single meeting. I don't think I've missed a meeting. And I've always given back. Well, through those relationships, I've also, now after I got out of advertising, I've had investors come from that board. And it was simply because I wanted to volunteer and help out and be more involved. I've seen the same thing with junior achievement. I'm passionate about helping underserved communities and kids there. So that's why all the profits from Volume 1 and Volume 2 of our books get donated to junior achievement in Cincinnati. Well, I also am on the board for junior achievement in Cincinnati, and have investor relationships through that board. And by volunteering, then becoming a board member, you can accomplish the same things. The important thing is to make sure that you're genuinely interested in and passionate, or at least want to contribute. Maybe not passionate initially, but you're genuinely interested in the cause and you want to contribute. And then as you get more and more involved, then look to become a board member. After you volunteer, look to become a board member. And then once you become a board member, you're likely going to be surrounded by a bunch of ladies and gentlemen who are high achievers and also passionate about the same cause.